Good evening and welcome to DeFacto Review with Jargal DeFacto and myself, Grace Brown, bringing you a weekly roundup of news and current affairs here in Mongolia. We are live on Facebook at V Television. You can also follow us on Twitter, #DeFacto. Coming up on the program. Mongolia's National Security Council declares a state of emergency over the country's hazardous air that's now killing hundreds every year. The government bans migration to the capital, but how effective will it be? We'll have the latest on that and other measures to ease the smog. President Elbegdorj faces a new impeachment campaign as pollution and other concerns grow. And despite the choking air, the eagle huntress captivating audiences far and wide is keeping her Mongolian citizenship. Thank you for joining us. We begin with the latest on Ulaanbaatar's poisonous air pollution. The National Security Council has declared pollution in the Mongolian capital to be a state of emergency. President Elbegdorj, who chairs the council, says the city is now considering evacuating migrants to the countryside and banning further migration to the city. We'll be discussing that later. He also warned that pollution is impacting foreign investment and hurting the economy. Readings of the tiny but toxic particles known as PM2.5 reached in some parts of the city above the level of 1,000 per cubic meter. That's 4 times worse than levels seen in Beijing during its recent bout of smog. Jargal, what does this mean for all of us living in Ulaanbaatar?
Well, you know, this National Security Council meeting was like an early morning wake up, or sudden wake up, kind of shocking in a way, because people knew, but it is like to be announced as like an emergency, etc. It was a lot in a way extreme. It is correct in a way because according to the statistics they have revealed, it's about 1,200 people are dying every year due to illness caused or exacerbated by air pollutions, including 120 children.
That's right.
That means, you know, about 3 to 4 persons are dying every day because the pollution. It's very bad statistics, which we somehow estimate to be level at that level, and it is also matching the other estimates made by University of California and Seoul National University about air pollution in Mongolia. Mainly, they said they found that children under age 5 face the greatest risk, as air pollution can damage the development of a child's body. And President Elbegdorj, after that closed session of the Security Council, he made brief for press in which he said, now we are growing a whole generation of smoke where the children's bone body become smaller, etc., etc., many statistics. And but the issue is it correct that now we are making emergency? Then emergency, state of emergency means you are isolating that zone, and you are forbidding the crossing that zone, which is impossible today in this city. So he also supporting the city authority decisions to have ban on the migration of people to the city.
Well, as you say, with kids most affected by this, parents are now planning their second pollution protest in a month. The second one will be held on January the 28th at Sukbata Square. Their slogan is "We're mad as hell," which says it all, really. Do you think that the protests will have a tangible impact on policy?
Oh yes, what else the ordinary people can do other than demonstration? They go now to the streets, finally. It was on December 28th. Some 4,000 parents came together and they collected 2,700 signatures to appealing to do some drastic measures against this air pollutions. And now they will get again in a month, January 20th, where many people are planning to go there, because this is really becoming truly tragic that nothing is done, cannot be done anything now. We talk a lot every year for the last 10, 15 years, no result, and our president was speaking a lot. Yeah, it's true that he was speaking a lot. But today, we should measure things not by the amount, how much you have been speaking, but it is a time to measure by the deed, how much you have done, actually. And that is a big problem in this country, because the cause of air pollution in Ulaanbaatar go not to the city, it goes to rural countryside. Why? Many herdsmen, nomads, cannot live any longer there. They are losing their animals, herds, and they don't have any, tangible way of tangible measures to improve their life. So
exactly.
they abandon. They come back.
Desertification and climate change.
So now the real
risks.
cause of the air pollution is coming from the rural Mongolia, where, to me, the very center of the rural development is not Somong or Aimak centers. This is the BAG, which is the smallest unit where 10 to 50 herdsmen families get together. Because nomads, they change their pasture land, they interchange their places, etc. In Mongolia, up to now, had not found the right way of cooperation people within this small BAG. So that's the solution, I think, where we should provide the conditions, or we should give that possibility for them to get together, to make a cooperation, to sell their things together, the whatever is from animals, right?
Right, so that herders can actually have viable livelihoods
Exactly.
rather than coming to the city in search of jobs.
And it is not coming because we privatized all herds many years ago during this changes, transitions since 1990. But what we have not done is the pasture land, to whom it belongs to, not clear. If these herds don't find their land does not completely belong to them, then eventually give up.
Unclear ownership, unclear responsibility, right?
Exactly. So this air pollution gives big food for thoughts for Mongolian politicians, all Mongolians, to think about the pasture land ownership.
Just for some of our viewers who are less familiar with Mongolia, expats, for example, could you tell us a little bit more about how people live in the Gur districts, the kind of conditions that these migrants face, and why coal is burned so widely here? Yeah,
Ulaanbaatar is a home for half of Mongolians, of 3 million populations, and 200,000 about families live in this fenced Gur district, where they have not ordinary conditions for sanitations, running water. There is none of them there.
No central heating.
Yes, and in some district, Hasha we call it, in the fence, 2 or 3 gears are there. Each is the source of this air pollution smoke, right? Now, what was happening was, every year for the last almost 10 years, from 20 to 30,000 people were migrating to Ulaanbaatar city, and either creating their own ger in one of the fence, or we were allowed to have own full street of these gers, and that's the reason why Ulaanbaatar is extended so much over all these hills, and other hills, and third hills, and all this together make that air pollution in Ulaanbaatar city. And now Ulaanbaatar new mayor Su Batpol says not anymore. He said even he stops the migration to Ulaanbaatar city. But the fact is really that you cannot say you are British, right? You cannot bring your tent to London and you become a Londoner, you see. That's impossible. It's not possible. Here it is the case. They will bring their tent and they put their on the land. Now they got immediately permissions.
Yeah.
So this is the one of the problem we see with immigration. But again, as we have talked, what is the reason for them to have migration to Ulaanbaatar city? Now, when it is stopped, now they are violating certain even provisions of our constitutions, 25th anniversary of which we have celebrated also last week. In which this constitution, it says that Mongolians have a full right to choose wherever they want to live, the place of residence. We are violating that with a new one. So I think it's a matter of interpretation of that ban of moving.
It's interesting because in the constitution, it also guarantees Mongolian citizens the right to a safe and healthy living environment. And I think it was Mayor Batbold who said, we can actually justify overriding one constitutional provision because health and safety comes above freedom of movement in his view. So it's interesting, but I think that you really make a valid point about guaranteeing people livelihood. If you're forcing them to stay in the countryside, then they need work.
They should want to stay there, but where they were born, where they used to live. There should be such a conditions where they would like to live there because they do what they like, where they can make money and decent conditions for their living. This is the only solutions, not the issue of, as President suggested, moving Ulaanbaatar city to another city.
To Hahoren?
Yeah, Hahoren. Well, by the way, this is many years ago he had proposed this idea when even he was a prime minister.
Yeah.
Well, the idea, okay, but it should be very long-term planned actions. The other idea was his idea last week was to move all administration, government offices, administration units out of the Ulaanbaatar city to move to the direction of where now the new airport. And he said that whenever this administration moves, the people move, there will be new life, there will be new dynamic development, etc. I mean, it's possible, of course, many cases. Seoul city, for example, have moved their government offices outside of the city, for example. Astana is, Almaty was, replaced by Astana as a capital city of Kazakhstan, etc.
And many in Beijing are
That's
also
possible,
outside,
yeah. But, however, not today, not tomorrow. It will take some time, and he got a lot of negative comments for this proposal.
Well, in many ways, this migration ban is a little like China's hukou system. Under the hukou system, hukou meaning residence permit, people who are from outside of Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and other major Chinese cities will find it very difficult to move there because they and their children and their families will be denied access to hospitals and schools in those big cities. And the system was initially put in place to ease the strain of cities, including pollution.
Yes.
But it's come under a lot of criticism because as a result of this, many migrant workers, 500 million almost, have lived without registration and social security and rights. So what China did is it rapidly urbanized inland many other cities that probably most people have never heard of but are bigger than New York. And it provided sort of regional hubs where people could get work. And it's also, by 2020, going to allow some 100 million migrant workers to get urban residence. So China's doing something a little bit similar, but perhaps further along. Do you think there's
by
anything...
size is completely different, of course.
Yeah.
But however, the impact may have be even severe in this small, relatively small city in the country, because we may have a kind of a refugee inside of our own country. The people would have come to Ulaanbaatar city, but they will not have a permission. Then also, like in China, they will be neglected or refused to give a permission. Then schools, other social services. So there can be other registered under somebody's name. The merit of the idea is not to have any more chimney with new source of air pollution.
That's right, and there'll be a red demarcation zone around the existing GER districts to stop them from getting bigger, is that right?
It is too harsh and too little to change things for a short period. Unfortunately, in a month from now, there will be a Lunar New Year, then there will be a warmer weather, and we will again, like for the last 15 years, we'll forget again the smoke. And we will have another election, then until the next winter comes, we will forget everything like we did it for many times. It shows that we should have a decent civic society watching, monitoring system for any program addressing the air pollution decrease. The problem is there were several cases where a lot well-known or certain corruption cases. And at the end, it was not even a corruption. That was the final decisions of the court. So this sort of irresponsibility, not clear good governance, is the source of problem in Mongolia. So we have to solve the problem of corruption. And with the land-related, Ulaanbaatar city land-related, which this permission issue of land, guarantee of licenses, all this made many officials millionaires in the town. It clearly shows how the corruption is here still in this city.
Well, one group that's been watching the issue of pollution particularly closely recently has been journalists. They launched a joint campaign last week. Newspapers published photos of Ulaanbaatar's smoke and smog on their front covers and online, while TV broadcasters came together and they showed 30 seconds of smoke at the same time.
Yes.
It's we know how competitive the Mongolian media landscape is.
Yes.
It's quite unusual, isn't it, for them to come together on an issue like this?
So it's one of the rare cases where they get together at the same time with the same action, which on one side also shows how severe is the issue of air pollution. Hopefully it will go until it is solved, which will take a lot times, money, resources, will, at the time when this country has to pay a lot of money as a foreign debt to pay. Unfortunately, the country spent it more when it was earning the most in 2011. It was the highest growth year, highest government earning year, and yet from the next year we have been borrowing the highest amount of money, and we have to repay it now. So really the situation of Ulaanbaatar city air pollution altogether, a lot has to do with the quality of public governance, transparency, and the commitment to fight corruption, which is failing, unfortunately.
Well, one of the other solutions, aside from the migration ban, I mean, short-term solutions, as you mentioned, this is a huge long-term issue that comes from multiple different areas, including environmental and political. But another solution that was mentioned was banning the sale of new stoves, apart from those that burn biofuel and natural gas. Do you think that this is going to be effective?
Well, at least they should try not to have more source of pollutions first. The other thing is government had decided from the new year to free the price for electricity at night. And there's a certain limit of capacity of power they should receive, but it helps a lot poor families to heat differently other than burning the coal. And also some 20,000 or so, the very poor families will receive, they will receive more the heating facilities free. So they try this sort of things. But the final solution is we have talked now, is lays in countryside, the way they live. So on all fronts, Mongolia has to try efficiently what they have suggested. But how efficient it will be is a different matter, because There are several, many decisions, plans, laws in this country, but when it comes to real implementation in a reality, it always lag behind that solution, the decisions to make.
Mm. So it's a bit like putting a bandage on an open wound. You need to address it with address the bigger issue of herders' livelihoods in order to really solve pollution in the capital.
Yes, instead of these drastic measures to move the city or to make the zones of disaster, emergency, more practical thing will be done through these limits of these new chimneys, etc.
Mm. I mean, we have seen millions of US dollars spent in recent years by the government as well as donors and international partners on initiatives such as the Clean Stove project. How are these new ideas any different?
This money spent for this sort of public projects, and including those who are what they are planning now, will not have a desired result until we have very clear monitoring and evaluation function by civic society. And I suggest for any project, some 2% or so should go for that purposes. Mm. They should find, or they should have on tender a body, civic society, which will watch the efficiency, the result of any program. And in this way, we can, I think, decrease corruption in the society. Mm. We should have a public board website, public's website, where this independent evaluating NGO is to report on the merit and the particular result of all public projects. First of all, projects that has to do with air pollution. Mm. You know, because we not only talk about this air pollution from Gate District now, it's a matter of old cars, it's a matter of many heating boilers around the city. They should be replaced, 8,000 of them should be replaced immediately, because one is worth of several hundred years. This sort of air pollution is also happening. So there are several things we should take measure, but only thing, make sure that the money spent for that used properly. Mm. That's Absolutely. The problem in Mongolia, yes.
Well, President Elbek George is coming under increasing pressure from this issue and others, and in the last week or so, independent MP S. Javklan, along with the head of the Independence Union Party, G. Oyanga, announced that they are together seeking his impeachment. How much of a risk does this really pose to President Elbek George, given he's not running in the upcoming presidential election?
Well, impeachment 5 months before he finished officially his term sounds a little bit not on time, but however, the cause, the reasons they're raising the issues are serious. And I wish this Mongolian President Office react, for example, to 12 points statement that Mrs. Oyanga, former parliament member, raising. And she's blaming the president for 12 cases of corruptions or misconduct, etc. And it should be properly replied and commented by the president office, first of all. Secondly, the will of the president had tried a lot, have given a lot advices, speeches about air pollution. It's true, what is true, it's true. But however, he having all this power, you know, he is in control. He's in control of nominating judges, security forces, all this. He has a lot of power. Why he would not use this power to make sure enforce what he was suggesting? That's the governance issue. It's kind of the tricks in the government in the country. So if the president is not making sure that his words are implemented, then who can do that? Mm-hmm. So it's again a governance issue. It's, by the way, it's again an issue of not clear constitutional provisions of power concentration in the country. Parliament, president, judge, executive office. So very blurry. There are situations where nobody is taking a day-end responsibility. Prime Minister has almost no power now because all executive power is now in the legislative power. Parliamentarians have the most power in the country. And president, sometimes he's symbolic, looks like, sometimes really he has a power. At the end, who is responsible for this particular case? That's the issue of Mongolian governance as well.
Interesting. Well, I mean, according to the law and the president of Mongolia, don't they need 26 MPs to officially propose impeachment in order for Parliament to discuss it?
I'm worried about that with this 26 MPs, where the 65 seats belong to one political party. It's very easy to get together. But now the issue is they will relocate our attention to impeachments, you know. Meanwhile, we have so many other issues to solve. I don't think it's the priority to have impeachment for this president. It's more political issues. Let the president go until the election goes, but then let's focus on the major issues. We have a payment of the foreign debt. We have issue with the development bank. We have issue the budget deficit. So many other issues, and I don't want I don't think it's very smart to pay attention just to for the sake of the impeachment of president to have so much time spent.
Bigger issues at hand. Well, despite pollution, corruption, and a slowing economy, the eagle huntress who has captivated audiences around the world, Ashol Pan, is keeping her Mongolian citizenship. Her father, Norogaev, says that although we are Kazakhs, Mongolia is our motherland. How significant is that?
Well, if they are suggested to be Kazakhstan's citizens, that was the answer by her father, Ashol Pan father, and which sounds great because it is not. He said, we are Kazakhs, but we were born in Mongolia. Mongolia is our motherland.
Yes.
You know, it also recently a Mongolian sportswoman was running for Olympic game under Kazakhstan flag. The sort of feelings now among Mongolians, I mean, why the Kazakhstans would buy the sportsmen, whoever is best performers. There was a little bit feeling of Mongolians.
Because they were offered Kazakh citizenship. And they just,
so this answer was good, and I'm very proud of them. And I think it again demonstrates the unity of the nations as Mongolia. Over 100,000 Kazakhs we have in the western Wanaimak by Ingulgi. I visited several times. Last time in summer last year, I wrote an article called Way of Development, which is in Kazakh name, the Urgondi Jol is in Kazakh name, in which I suggested this strengthening this unity I could feel there. It's very hardworking people, our Kazakhs. Very clean, very accurate, great hospitality. But the only issue was somehow all education goes in Kazakh language, but they are behind the proficiency of Mongolian language, which is the state language in the country. What I was afraid of is now current young generation of Kazakhs people there may lay behind in Mongolian leadership because they would not speak perfectly Mongolian, their own state language. I have met some people who, perfect, talented young guys, young people, studied in Russia or in Kazakhstan. They came back, but their Mongolian official language proficiency is so low that they are not accepted to any public offices, which is bad. And I thought, in my article, I advised our Kazakh friends to learn their own official state language. So in this way, we should not have the lack in the governance of the country by all nationalities in sight, which was always the case. We had always Kazakh parliament members, we have Kazakh ministers, there was not much big differences in controversies. So I'm very happy with this comment of this person. So with that great note, I think
yeah.
we should complete our news today.
Well, that's all for this edition of DeFacto Review. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you can tune in again next week. Please follow us on social media, #DeFacto. Good night.
Thank you very much. Have a great week.